We're 48 hours ahead of the launch of the Artemis II mission. Let's count down to launch.
And here we go.
There's the deluge. Here's ignition.
Doubling up.
Did it just do a Kerbal?
Back to the moon and beyond.
Put that in the big bag, you know.
Back at home, we all have a lot of work to do, but from here, that sure looks like a perfect flow.
Propulsion continues to be normal.
We did have an observation.
Equalize.
343 unfolds to go.
It's orange.
Water towers can fly! Bingo! Right in the center.
Where's Jacqueline? There it is!
That was surreal.
That's not what we want to see.
No! Oh my God.
Yikes. You bet. Sure. We don't need any more of these.
Welcome to NSF's Countdown to Launch. We are just 2 days away from the Artemis II mission taking off from the East Coast. I'm your host, Alice Carruth, and I'm joined by two incredible commentators from the NSF team. We're going to start with Sawyer. Sawyer, why don't you introduce yourself to the audience?
Hi, everybody. It is a pleasure to be here. We are 48 hours away from launch, which is crazy to think. I will be with you on the Space Coast in the coming days. So for now, one last time in the studio as we get ready to count down.
And up next is Ryan.
Hey everybody, it is a pleasure to be back as always. We're continuing to count down. It's exciting. Let's get into the show.
Absolutely. And a big thank you to the team behind the cameras. Jay Keegan is going to be producing for us, and Gage is on the ground over at Florida's Kennedy Space Center. So we are officially counting down. The clock has started. Guys, do you want to start us off with where we are on this whole rundown and scheme of things ahead of the Artemis II launch? Sawyer.
Sure. So again, the numbers are back on the countdown clock. The countdown is underway, which means it is getting even more real, as hard as that is to believe. So while, of course, they're not going to be getting the rocket fueled up and everything just yet, that happens closer to launch, the teams will be getting on console, getting on their stations, getting everything set up, started up, booted up, and doing all of their tests and making sure everything is ready to go for when they get into that nitty-gritty part of the count. So a lot of it is basically just going to be turning things off and on again, turning it on, making sure they work, and then turning it off, checking all the battery levels, checking that every system that they need is already up and running and working. And of course, if something isn't, they have plenty of time, if that's the case, to be able to troubleshoot anything. But in the most recent update that they gave about an hour ago, right now they are proceeding as planned. Everything so far is still go, and they're working no issues at all with the rocket up to this point.
So that clock started at L49 and 50 minutes. They seem to be going through a lot of barriers ahead of this launch, Ryan. Are you concerned about anything that's coming up in the next, 10 hours or so?
Not really. Everything seems to be going pretty smoothly so far. We, of course, had a couple of wet dress rehearsals over the last couple of months. So NASA teams have had the opportunity to go through everything. And then in the second wet dress rehearsal, of course, they managed to get through 2 terminal countdown runs. So they've gone through this countdown before, this 2-day plus long countdown, as we can see now, approaching the T-minus 48-hour mark. It's pretty exciting that we're going to be crossing the 2-day mark exactly during this stream. But yeah, I'm not particularly concerned about anything. Of course, there will be general items that they'll be working through as we get to launch, but there hasn't been a big problem that has occurred at this point. We don't have any serious concerns. Things relatively, apart from, maybe some small things here and there. Charlie Blackwell-Thompson, the Artemis II launch director, was just talking about in the press conference, one of the biggest issues they've had is that a couple of monitors in launch control they don't use very regularly. They went to turn them on and they didn't turn on, so they had to buy a couple new monitors. And she said those are issues they really like to have because it means that bigger issues aren't happening on the rocket. So yeah, feeling pretty good so far.
All very good signs. Now, there is a little bit of concern about the weather coming up on Wednesday. Sawyer, you're obviously a local lad. Tell us a little bit about what the weather forecast is looking like for Wednesday's launch.
I like that, a local lad. So the official forecast from the 45th Weather Squadron currently is that the forecast is 80% favorable for launch, with the main concerns being the cumulus cloud rule and the ground winds, which is slightly different for Artemis. And that's one of the things they talked about in the briefing just before we went on the air, is that there are some rocket-specific ones that they have, and the wind is absolutely one of those. But Charlie Blackwell Thompson did say that as of right now, they're more concerned about the cumulus clouds than they are about the winds. And, well, it's cumulus cloud. Who cares? What's the big deal about a cloud? Well, these are the type of clouds that when you fly through them could actually create electricity or lightning. And lightning striking a rocket on its way to the moon, if I had a nickel for every time that happened, hopefully it's still just one nickel, but it did happen. So that's why they try and avoid that at all costs. But it's worth noting, this is a 2-hour window, and Charlie was very confident in saying that, you know, if that is our concern as the cumulus cloud rule, when you have a 2-hour window, there is a strong chance that you will find a spot within that 2-hour window where all of the conditions are acceptable, especially when it's an 80% favorable chance.
Yeah, that window opens at 6:24 p.m., I believe, on Wednesday, and we are hoping it's going to be a daylight launch for all of us because we're all excited to be able to see this. We've obviously had some updates from NASA. You guys have mentioned that we just had a conference before we came on air. There was one yesterday as well with the crew. Are we getting lots of information out of these, or do we think that they're skipping around anything? I know, Ryan, you spoke to the crew yesterday. Was there much you could get out of that chat?
Oh, we could get a lot out of them. The crew are excited. They're pumped. They're at the Kennedy Space Center. Finally, they arrived on Friday. Yeah, I mean, their job is to go and embark on this mission, talk about this mission, experience this mission, and then let the world know about this mission. This is the crew. This is one of the reasons that we have such a great crew getting ready to head out to the moon in a couple of days here. So yeah, they are talking, and we love that. I was fortunate enough to ask them a question, and yeah, we love listening from the crew. This is that conference the other day. I don't actually know when these things are happening. Everything's a blur now. But you know, the briefings are wonderful as well. We are getting information out of the briefings, the technical briefings with NASA leadership, which is wonderful as well. Sometimes, you know, for one reason or another, they will dart around things, and not this time around. Not with Artemis. They are going into details when asked about specific things, which is nice to hear. And it's also great to have regular conferences, because a lot of the times before there was some criticism because there would be maybe one conference every few months, and the conference we did get, they'd start it 5 minutes late and end it 5 minutes early. So we'd get like half an hour of Q&A versus 45 minutes, and that's meant to cover a few months of progress, which didn't really seem right. So throughout the mission, they're doing daily conferences up until launch, and during the mission, they'll be doing daily conferences as well. I believe you can see the conference from just about an hour ago on screen now with NASA leadership. So yeah, it's great to hear from these people, and actually, you know, we're really grateful for the time that they are giving us to actually answer our questions and help explain the mission.
Absolutely. And you did mention that question that you put to the team. I'm going to go and put our producer on the spot who's saying, I'm not quite ready for it yet. We will get to that in a minute. But before we get to the question that you were able to put to the crew yesterday, Sawyer, you were listening into the conference that was going on just before we came on air. And there was a great point that was made about one of the issues that we were concerned about with the leaks. Could you give us an update on what you heard in the questions that were asked of the team?
Absolutely. So if you remember, during the first wet dress rehearsal that they did, one of the biggest issues was that hydrogen leak in the tail service mast umbilical, for those who remember the Blame Hydrogen shirts and were able to get them. And the other, of course, was the Blame Helium shirts, after there were helium issues too. Most importantly, let's start with this one, the tail service mast umbilical that you see on your screen. So this is the LH2 TSMU. So this is what brings the hydrogen into the core stage. When they rolled it back, we had talked here on NSF, oh, maybe there's a concern that shaking it during the roll will cause it to loosen, because history showed that basically every time they rolled it back and rolled it out to the pad again, all of the fixes that they did had an issue. So these are Teflon seals. They fixed it at the pad for the second wet dress rehearsal and had the best numbers that they had had in program history in terms of the lowest amount of leak. We were worried, but apparently all for naught. They announced that during the rollback and roll out, they added special supports to those flex hoses that deliver the LH2 and the seals that are attached to them. So that extra support was meant to basically take the load off of it and ease any chance of it shaking loose or anything like that. So in theory, it should hopefully stay in place, which should prevent that leakage that we saw during the first wet dress rehearsal and most of the Artemis I campaign. Those supports have been removed since and will not be there for launch, but hopefully that eased the loads on that connector during the rollback and rollout.
So I guess we won't find out the full results of that until they start tanking, which will be happening over the next 48 hours. And we will certainly be keeping a close eye on that. A big thank you to everybody who's been sending us their questions in. If you have any questions for the team, please tag us in the chat at NSF or at NASASpaceflight, and we'll come through to us and we'll make sure we ask them during this lovely little program we've got with you. So I'm going to go through them.
Can I throw one more thing in there real quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I mentioned the other leak that we had, which was the helium leak. And I know that was one of the things that we'll see on launch day when they start fueling it. That is the case with the TSMU. But with the helium leak, that is not the case, because since they've been out at the pad, they have done tests with pressurizing the ICPS, the interim cryogenic propulsion stage. So basically the upper stage. That was the one where there was a seal that came loose and it basically blocked all of the helium from going into the rocket. They have since used those tanks and pressurized it, and there were no issues when they did that.
Perfect. Yeah, we've just had an update come in from the team. I think we've got a little video of what happened in the conference that happened before we came to air, if we're able to share that. This is the update that came in from NASA. It says, the countdown for NASA's Artemis II test flight is underway at the agency's Kennedy Space Center in Florida, with members of the launch team arriving at their consoles inside the Rocco, this is where I'm going to ruin it, is it Patron Launch Control Center. The on-site countdown clock started ticking at 4:44 p.m. Eastern to a targeted launch time of 6:24 p.m. on Wednesday, April the 1st. Artemis II is the first crewed launch of NASA's SLS, or Space Launch System rocket, and Orion spacecraft. With the countdown officially underway, engineers are powering up flight hardware, checking communication links, and preparing the rocket's cryogenic systems for the precise fueling sequence required to load hundreds of thousands of gallons of supercooled liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen even. At launch pad 39B, teams will begin filling the sound suppression systems, massive tank with water, which will unleash the protective deluge at liftoff to shield the vehicle from the roar of its own engines. And if you want to go through and read all of the details about that, it is on nasa.gov. They have just recently released that update for you, and a little bit from the countdown conference that they had just before we came to air as well. So we are on that countdown to the launch of the Artemis II mission, which will be taking humans back to the moon for the first time since 1972, which is crazy to think that it's been this long. We have a couple of questions to go through from our audience, and I'd love to be able to get to those. We're going to start off with this one here. Let's see if we can get this up on display. We're wondering if you can see Artemis II from a telescope. Now, obviously, the whole trajectory of Artemis II is taking off. It's going to do its first round around the Earth. Do we think we'll be able to track it easily from the ground? It depends where you are on the surface, surely.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say probably not, just because it's very small and it's going to be very far away. But, you know, maybe on those first couple of orbits around Earth, if the lighting conditions are just right, you might be able to see it for a split second. Don't quote me on that, but, you know, the Orion spacecraft is only 5 meters wide. It's, you know, it's short and stumpy. It's not a huge, you know, football field sized structure like the International Space Station is, which of course has those huge solar arrays which reflect the sunlight. So I wouldn't bet on it, but of course if you do see something, take a photo and tag us on the socials, and we'll bring it for you, because that is something I would be very interested in seeing. But as you can see there, I mean, this is nowhere near to scale. In actual scale, this animation would be about 5 times more that way. So when Orion is near the moon, there is a incredibly 0% chance you will actually be able to see it, unfortunately, that far away.
It's absolutely not to scale. I always tell students when I do STEM outreach that we often see the Earth and the moon right next to each other. And I'm like, if you were doing this to scale, you could use an 8-inch ball for the Earth and a 2-inch ball for the moon and be able to put them 20 feet apart. And that is actually to scale. We don't see them ever that close in real life. So I'll go to another couple of questions we've got coming in. We have a super chat. Big thank you for the team that is able to support us on the stream. Any idea what type of military defense assets, if any, are used over the Atlantic to protect the crew and rocket as SLS ascends to orbit? That's a good question. We obviously are in a bit of a turbulent time right now. I'm assuming that we don't have more than our normal communications satellites, but unless you guys know of something that I don't.
I was fortunate enough to enter a press conference with Space Launch Delta 45 earlier on today, and this very question on if there was, heightened security around the United States current military operations in the Middle East. That question was asked, and the truth answer from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station is that no, there is no heightened security presence because of the current military operations in the Middle East. That is not a concern. They are operating as they do in peacetime, as they do in wartime. Their operations at the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station do not change. So there is nothing extra they are putting on simply because of those actions which are currently taking place in the Middle East. So that's not a concern for that. It'll just be their standard support that they do. Of course, the support they do for a Starlink mission is very different from the support that they do for an Artemis mission, but it will be their standard, quote-unquote, Artemis support, even though this is a huge mission and they're going to be making sure everybody's safe, because, of course, there's going to be hundreds of thousands of people coming to the local area to watch this thing in person compared to, barely a few hundred for your average Falcon 9 launch nowadays.
Yeah, we seem to get a lot of questions coming in about that. Where to go? Where's the best place? I'm assuming that the whole area is pretty much on lockdown right now. Sawyer, what are you hearing on the ground about people that want to be able to visit the site?
It's not really so much lockdown, but it's about to get busy. I believe they estimated about 400,000 people will be descending on Florida's Space Coast for launch day. So it is going to be a lot. The Brevard Emergency Operations Center has already put out traffic planning for if you're expecting to leave. The one thing that I can say, it's the most cliche thing in existence, but if you are going, pack your patience. You are going to need it. There will be people all over. The bridge by Max Brewer, it's going to have parts of it closed down to vehicle traffic to allow for the pedestrian traffic for a certain amount of time. I'm sure along US 1 in Titusville is going to be jam-packed. Playa Linda and Cars Park are both not open to the public for this. There are plenty of public beaches as well, but expect there to be crowds and find difficulty parking. So if you are going, get there as early as you can. If you can just camp out, bring some food, bring some snacks with you, and just hang. That might be your best move, but just fair warning on that. And of course, our team, we will have someone out in the field on launch day. Our Julia Bergeron usually likes to drive around and give hints on where people can watch from and the traffic at current spots. So make sure you follow her, or at least follow the NSF socials, where we'll be able to repost what she's putting out there. So X, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, TikTok, Blue Sky. We'll help you out with that in addition to all of the actual launch updates.
All great. Great questions, though, which just bring us to our next question, which is a good one. What are the astronauts doing over the next 48 hours? And I believe that the chat says, if I was in their position, I'd find it very hard to get any sleep. Would you?
I mean, I would probably struggle to get some sleep too, but what they're doing currently is they are, at this moment, likely out at the Astronaut Beach House. For those who don't know, it's basically a historic marker. It's a house that is on the property, shares property there with the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. It's where crews usually go to hang out right before their launch. They get to go there with their family members, have a barbecue, do their thing. It's currently a conference area for the most part, but for launches, they still let the crew out there. This is basically their last chance to be face-to-face with their family members outside and, have their final peaceful moments out on the beach and do whatever they need to do 48 hours before launch. They'll also be going through other training and exercises still. They mentioned the briefing. One of the things was walking through the emergency egress procedure, so obviously not going out to the pad and doing it, but walking through with them, hey, if something goes wrong and here's how you would escape, here's what you would do. This is training that they've been doing already for years, but just keeping it fresh in their heads of, hey, since this is coming up and this is something that might happen sooner than later, just keep it in mind. And then tomorrow, I believe they said, is primarily going to be a day for the crew to rest, if they can actually do that.
Yeah, I can't imagine you get much sleep when you know you're about to be humanity's first mission back to the moon since the 1970s. That's got to be a pretty exciting time for all of them involved in that, not just to mention those that are also part of the whole system. We've got another question that's come in, which I think is a really interesting one that we've all been asking. Assuming that they try to launch on the first, but they have to, S word, we don't want to say it. When could they try again?
Well, the countdown is 49 hours long, so it's going to be a couple days afterwards. So I think the earlier, and we see this in the weather reports as well, they're releasing a weather report for Wednesday and then a 48-hour delay beyond that. So if something does happen, it's going to be 2 days minimum, I would say, to be safe. I think a 24-hour turnaround, if we get all the way up to the end of the countdown, a 24-hour turnaround, I think is pretty, not on the table for a mission of this magnitude.
Oh, I believe the team said yesterday that they might actually be able to manage a 24-hour turnaround. So it'll be interesting to see if they do manage to do that or not. It, as you said, it is a normal 48 hours.
They did discuss it today as well. And the way that Charlie Blackwell Thompson put it is that we have 6 days. We have the ability to turn around within 24 hours. Of course, the concern was the amount of commodities. They have since upgraded that since Artemis I. They essentially said that of the days that they have 4 attempts that they can actually do within that window, given, propellants, all of the sleep requirements for the controllers, things like that. So between the 1st and the 6th, they will have 4 tries. So that means that there will have to be 48-hour delays in there somewhere if it doesn't go in the 1st or 2nd attempt.
All great points that we've got coming in and some really great questions. If you have any for the team, just tag us in the chat at NSF or at NASASpaceflight. And a big thank you to all our members that are watching as well. A reminder that we have got an early membership opportunity for merchandise that's going to be going live today. So if you're interested, this is your time. This is your nudge to go and become a member of NSF. And I'm just going to keep plowing through these tons of questions that have been coming through.
I wonder what that merch could be, by the way.
Oh, have we got pictures of it? I'm assuming we do.
If only there was a hint somewhere.
I have absolutely no idea.
Yeah, Brian, you wouldn't happen to have any idea of what it might be, would you?
Absolutely no clue whatsoever.
You play it so deadpan.
I don't know.
But look at my shirt.
I mean, you can get it off your chest if you really need to.
Well, I hope not. It's a different website, Sawyer. Move on.
Whoa, okay. Alice, your turn.
Well, I'm just plowing through all these questions that are coming through again. They're really great ones that are coming in now. I've got my NSF shirt on, by the way. I do have my Artemis shirt on today. So if you are interested, there are some great little Artemis shirts available on the website. This one's my particular favorite. It does resemble a little setup for a very well-known Swedish furniture brand. I have to keep pulling it up. Then I'm going to be like half undressing on the stream. There you go. It's definitely worth looking at. We have some great merchandise available on the website. So go do some shopping while you're watching the streams today, tomorrow, and later this week as well. Hopefully not too late this week, though, because I think the team would be very upset if it doesn't go to launch on April the 1st.
Yeah. Speaking of needing that on a different website, please keep the shirt on.
Yeah.
I promise it's not that kind of show, folks. We are here just purely to talk about how excited we are to see the Artemis II mission launch, hopefully in the next 48 hours, because we are right in that middle of that countdown. I've got some great photographs that are going on in the chat that I hope we're going to be able to bring up to you in a little while. There's a rainbow currently over at NASA's Kennedy Space Center right by the countdown clock. So it's very pretty and it looks great. We'll hopefully get that up on the screen as soon as we can. Some of the questions that are coming in are blowing my mind. These guys are obviously really know their stuff. It's always good to see that you understand what's happening and what's going to be going on. A couple of really good questions to go through first. How about this one? How long will the blackout behind the moon be? I guess that's the communications questions. And there have been a lot of problems with the communications and concerns with it ahead of time. Oh, look, they've got that lovely image of the rainbow up. Thank you for that. I do appreciate it. Thank you, Jay, for being so quick on that. So I'm going to put this one.
Took that shot, by the way, just so we can acknowledge. Thank you, Gage.
Yes, thank you, Gage. Gage is the one who's giving us the live feed at the moment from Kennedy Space Center. I'm going to put this question to you, Sawyer. How long will the blackout behind the moon be? So this is when they finally get to do that figure array and they go right behind the back of the moon. Have you got any idea how long the comms blackout will be?
I don't know. That's something I can ask. But yeah, there's, of course, that communications gap as they go around the far side of the moon. They'll be seeing things that humans have never seen before with their own eyes. Given the timing that they're going and the lighting that they're expecting, there are parts of that far side of the moon that will be lit that were not seen during previous missions. Plus, they will be going farther away from the moon than any mission previously. The only other mission that had really gone that far out before was Apollo 13, and this will be beating that number. So by the time they get out there, yeah, there will be some downtime as they go behind the moon. Eventually, they hope to forego that issue as they work on the moon-based program, where they will have a communications network that they plan to have around the moon, especially ones with faster internet speed than most of us have here on Earth. If you want to learn more about that, there's a Breaking Space video that breaks all of that down. That's really good. But yeah, we'll see how long it ends up being.
Well, you mentioned in there...
I believe it's on the order of half an hour or so. Of course, it changes depending on the exact trajectory, which changes based on what launch day, on what day they launch. Because, of course, as we could see in this wonderful animation made by yours truly, the moon is constantly moving. So you need to be able to, you need to launch to where the moon will be in 5 days, not where it currently is. Because if you launch to where it currently is, you'll miss by 5 days worth of moon orbit. So I think it's on the order of half an hour or so. That exact number will be changing depending on the exact trajectory they take, depending on when they actually launch.
Well, great points. Now, Ryan, so you mentioned there about the geology of what they're going to be seeing on the far side of the moon. I know that's the question that you put to the T when you were able to speak to the crew yesterday. Would you like to tell us what their answer was?
Yes. Well, I believe if we have it queued up, I believe the crew can tell us what the answer was.
If any of you have any time, I know it's busy as we get to the pointy end of the count here, but I'm really interested to see if any of you have any, talking to the geology earlier on, if any of you have any specific features of the moon which you're most excited or most technically interested to spot out of the windows. Is there anything you're especially looking out for, or is it just, you know, the entire moon? I suppose it is the entire moon, but, you know, thanks.
I'll start if anyone wants to add. There's what's interesting about this launch window is depending on which day we launch, it really changes what we're going to see on the far side of the moon. In the early parts of this window, we're going to see an eclipse. So we'll see the sun go behind the moon. And this is something new that we just started learning about last week. How the scientists are amazing. You know, the plan changes and they're like, okay, we thought we were going to go do this, but maybe we can do something else. And right away they came up with some instruction for us on how we can leverage this opportunity to look for things that they're interested on the moon, like lofting of dust is something that was observed by a couple of astronauts during Apollo, but there's no real documentation of it. And so this transport of lunar regolith around the moon is very interesting. Does it have to do with magnetic fields, or what is causing this? And so this provides an interesting opportunity to look at that and also to look at the corona of the sun in a different way. And so we have been brushing up on how we're going to leverage this opportunity. There's a very short window. So that's pretty neat. As we come around the far side of the moon, no matter when we launch in this period, we will see part of the far side of the moon. And so Oriental is just this huge crater on the far side of the moon. I just learned last week, I didn't know this, you can see the edge of it from Earth. When the moon kind of rotates around a little bit in its orbit, it's tidally locked to the Earth, but you do see different sides of the moon a little bit more at certain times of the year. And so with telescopes, you can see the edge of this crater, but no one has ever seen this full crater on the far side of the moon. And so this would be really neat. I'm kind of excited to have a look at it. It's just enormous, super complex, and you could stare at it probably for hours.
You know, there's a report that one of the astronauts that went to the moon in the Apollo program wrote, Jack Schmidt, that he said about 3,000 miles is where you start to pick up the color, and then as you leave and go back beyond 3,000 miles, you start to lose the color. And so the scientists really are excited about getting these, 4 sets of human eyes, the best cameras in the universe, close to the moon. And so not any one specific thing, but just to be able to observe the moon and cosmic phenomena with human eyes up close, and to see things like the lunar regolith. We think of it as monochrome, or black and white or gray, and there's olivine, which is green, and pyroxene, which is gray or brown. ground, and so we can get close to see some of those minerals in the regolith up there that add color, and that is one of the things that I'm really looking forward to, is being closer and seeing some of that detail.
I think the only thing I want to add very briefly is we think, I know I did when we started training for this mission, that we've been to the moon. Apollo was at the moon. They've seen the whole far side of the moon. But actually, it turns out there's about 60% of the far side, I think, that has never been seen by human eyes because of the lighting conditions. Apollo always wanted that light on the front side of the moon for their landing and launch capabilities. So as Jeremy said, when we see Oriental, human eyes have never seen that. Never seen that. We've seen it in satellite photos, but humans have never, ever seen that before. That's cool.
And beyond the fact that Reed Wiseman just says, that's cool, and I think that's the best line out of that conference, you know, the answer's fantastic from the crew. I love hearing the crew speak. But the thing in that conference, which nobody said, it wasn't an answer, it wasn't a question, it was how the crew worked together. In that conference, you could see every time a question was asked, they didn't have to talk to each other to figure out who will answer it. They just knew by looking at each other who will be answering the question, who is the best to answer that question. And this might just be a press conference, but by that you can tell this crew has been working so closely together for over 3 years at this point almost. They know each other like that, and that is how you know that NASA has picked a fantastic crew, the correct crew, to fly Artemis II, because they know how to almost like talk to each other through mind control. It's a bit weird, but you know what I'm saying, right? They know how they will react to each situation without having to ask, how are you? Are you all right? Like, they know how their crewmate is.
Yeah, and they seem to be very well in tuned. One of the things I know they mentioned was about how much they're trying to rest ahead of the flight. They've got to be up 8 hours before launch. And we've had a question that's come in on the chat as well, asking about when they're going to get a chance to sleep. Any idea, Sawyer, if they've got a chance to, what the earliest point is during, you know, after launch for them to be able to actually get some shut-eye?
I mean, obviously, right after launch, there is a lot that they have to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's not simple. Of course, there's, you know, checkouts, getting everything set up. Of course, this is the first time they're doing the environmental control system, or ECLSS, environmental control and life support system. So there's a lot that they still have to keep an eye out for. But once they're up in space, they deploy the CubeSats, they get their burn raised up. They've got a little bit of time to sleep for a bit before you get into the translunar injection burn. So I believe it's going to be about 24-ish hours, or let me do the math on that, a little more than that, where they'll be allowed to go up there and then hang out, do their Earth orbit rendezvous proximity demonstrations and all that. So they'll get some sleep in there if they can. It's just kind of not a lot, but each of their sleep periods is cut out specifically in this crazy timeline.
It is a bonkers timeline.
I was just going to say, you can see on the first attempt, or the first day, flight day 0 technically, after launch. So they will have, obviously they'll be up 8 hours before launch, they'll have launch, they'll then of course go through all of their checkouts there. The separation of the ICPS, the interim cryogenic propulsion stage. They'll go through their proximity operations demonstration. They'll then go through cabin configuration. They'll then go through a PAO event and many other things. And they will then go into that pre/post sleep, so kind of that winding down period. They'll then have a 4-hour sleep period. And then they'll have to actually wake up in the middle of the night because they will have the perigee raise maneuver. And this is going to be a burn from the European service module to boost the lowest part of their orbit so that they are in a stable orbit, because if not, they'll be re-entering on that first orbit, which, you know, that is designed, the mission is designed like that if they have to come home straight away. Of course, we hope they don't, but it's designed if they have to do that. So that burn will raise the perigee so they don't re-enter on that attempt, and then they'll be able to get another 4.5 hours sleep. But every day they'll be waking up around, let's look here, about 19 or 20 hours mission elapsed time. So that'll be 0 days plus 19 hours, 1 day plus 19 hours, 2 days plus 19 hours, and so on and so forth. That's roughly when they'll be waking up every day, getting 8 hours or so of sleep every day. If they can sleep, that is.
Yeah. I'm not sure I'd be able to sleep, if I'm honest with you. It's going to be quite an omission for them all. Now, we have got another chat question that's come in that we definitely have to display. Is Ryan's shirt available in the shop? Well, yes.
That's a great question. I'm going to throw to Sawyer, the master of shop plugs.
Oh, yes. So it is available at shop.nasaspaceflight.com, but there's a caveat. It will be available to everyone on launch day. Until then, it is currently a members exclusive. So if you are a member here at NSF, you can get the shirt, or, as you can imagine, since it looks like a patch, you can get the patch version of the Artemis II flight patch. There it is.
Oh, it's
we
beautiful.
rise together back to the moon and beyond. We couldn't put the British part from Daryl, but figured this was probably better anyway. But we've got the
patch
crew.
to release.
And then, of course, normally we have a star for Moon and Mars, but you don't need that little star symbol. We have the Moon right there, but you still have the little Mars red symbol. You've got the 4 crew members there. You've got Orion, all of that. So this brand new, just releasing the information to you now. If you are a member, at least here on YouTube, I've already seen it. There is a members post that is out with the directions on how to get yours first. So if you want to become a member, now's a great time, because not only do you get early access to this patch, but don't forget we will also have the members multi-views on launch day, just like we do for our Starship coverage, where you'll get to see all of the different cameras that we have out there. There's some other behind the scenes awesomeness that we'll be seeing, especially about these patches, in those launch attempts coming up. So definitely check that out. And oh yeah, there's something else that it's available in. It's available as a pin. So remember we had those first run collections of all of the Starship patches? Well, now you can add another pin to your collection with the pin version of the Artemis II patch. All of that will be shop.nasaspaceflight.com. And this is the first one where you can just go ahead and buy it as its own pin.
I love that. It's a great little collection. And let's be honest, it's the first time in our lifetime that we're seeing humans return to the moon. Why not get something to commemorate that amazing milestone that we are seeing, hopefully as early as 6:24 p.m. on Wednesday, the 1st of April. It's no April Fools. I just want to say, what a beautiful image. Basically, Earthrise, which obviously we know from the first mission that went around the moon in the Apollo era, and also the plushie, the zero-G indicator for this mission. I don't know if you guys got to see during the crew conference this week that they unveiled the zero-G indicator. I was very excited to see that they've called it Rise. It pays homage to Earthrise. And I believe Rise is carrying a chip with all the names that everybody has sent to the moon. Is that correct?
Yep.
Ryan, do you know anything more about that?
Yep, so RISE is the zero-G indicator. NASA held a competition, and I believe they said that entries from over 50 countries around the world, there were people who entered that competition, and at the end of it, the zero-G indicator they have selected is called RISE, which was designed by a second grader from California, so I'm sure they'll be very happy to see their design flying on Artemis II. This plush was actually flown to the Kennedy Space Center with the astronauts when they arrived on Friday. They flew themselves in their NASA T-38. I mean, what else would you expect? This is NASA. I think the T-38 is, you know, as synonymous with NASA as the meatball is at this point. It's an awesome jet to see the astronauts flying around in. But they arrived at the shuttle landing facility, don't call it the launch and landing facility, and they brought RISE with them, and they zipped RISE up yesterday, I think. It was yesterday or the day before, but I believe
yesterday.
Reed Wiseman, Commander, posted a video on his social media feeds of them putting the SD card with the 5 million odd names that people have logged online and put it inside RISE, zipped RISE up, and 5 million names. There is a picture of the zero-G indicator. There is an SD card with 5 million names inside of that plush, and that is flying to the moon no earlier than Wednesday.
Congratulations to Lucas Yee, I believe, was the designer from California that made that. I think it's a fantastic zero-G indicator and a great way to celebrate and pay homage to that Earthrise from Apollo for our new mission with Artemis. It's very exciting. And I just want to take a moment to say a big thank you to Annette. Annette has given us a $20 super chat and has said that they have, yes. Oh, Byford Annette, sorry. I have my pin and patch ordered, thinking about the sun shirt too. Is there a sun shirt available to members already? Have we got any pictures of the sun shirts?
We have many, many merch items which are available. So if you're a member, go check them out. That's all I'm going to say. Go check them out. If you're not a member, you can check them out in 2 days' time. if you really want to see them, you can become a member from as little as 99 cents a month.
Yep, and if you go into the post section on the NSF YouTube channel here, the top post that's for members only shows you exactly what you need to do.
There you go. We've had a lot of questions coming into chat about what's going on with NSF's coverage. You know, how are we going to get the feeds from NASA? When do we start having those? How stressful is it for the teams on the ground? Sawyer, you're going to be there on Wednesday. I think you're probably the best person to be able to answer that. So let's start with the first question from this one asking about when we're going to start getting the NASA feeds on NSF.
I believe NASA will be providing feeds to us throughout different parts of the count. As the count goes on, they'll be adding different ones. I don't have the exact sheet in front of me when NASA's providing it, but don't worry, because we also have our own cameras out there as well. The entire team will be out there. We will have plenty of cameras for you to view. And again, once those NASA ones come in, I'm sure you'll be able to see those on the members multi-view once we do that. So keep an eye out for all of the different cameras. There will be a lot. And of course, we begin with our stakeout stream. So you can get that starting, as of right now, I believe 7:24 a.m. Eastern Time on launch day. It's kind of like if you've seen our Starship coverage. That's the more loose one where we talk about things as they happen. And then, of course, as we get into tanking and all the events happening, we'll be watching it super closely. And once the crew gets involved, we have our main launch broadcast, where you'll see some familiar faces and names doing all the commentary for you. And in the field, don't know who that would be. But yeah, you can already set a reminder on the YouTube channel to make sure that you know when those go live. So you're ready to join us for the stakeout and especially for that big launch stream too.
And that question, how stressful is it for you to be setting up? Do you feel like it's more stressful this time around, given that it is the Artemis II mission? It just feels a little bit more important in some ways?
I mean, I don't know if stressful is the word. Of course, we're all, going to do our best. We always try and provide the best views that we can here. And we know there's going to be a lot of eyes watching, but I have to give a shout out to the amazing team behind the scenes, both out in the field with Max and Jerry and Gage now out there, and Jay and Kevin and Carson and all of the other amazing work that they're doing behind the scenes to be able to ingest all of the footage, get all of the footage, and bring it to you. So the NSF team is working nonstop to bring the best coverage that we can for you. We hope that you'll join us on launch day.
Did someone say cameras?
Oh, it's Kevin!
Hey, it's the voice of God himself.
I heard someone say cameras.
Tell us about the cameras, Kevin.
So that's another cool thing about our membership program. I know I'm pushing it a little bit, but you guys are the reason we're able to ingest those NASA feeds. We're able to ingest 16 NASA feeds at Kennedy Space Center because of your support. And not only that, but we're bringing up. It says void of Kevin Michael Reed.
It's already changed, Kevin.
Okay. But that not only that, but then we're able to send our crew there. We have Gage, who came all the way from Starbase. We have people who have flown out to JSC. It's all done because of your support, because of our membership program, because of those super chats, and because you purchase all of. There's another question.
Well, you're answering it. You're basically answering the question. So I figured I might as well put it up there to make sure that they know we are answering those that are coming through on the chat.
Yeah. And one of the other things that we did this year was we only had 100 megabit internet connection at KSC. Now we've upgraded our internet connection to 1 gigabit with the ability to increase it to 10 gigabits. And obviously, that's not cheap. It's enterprise level connectivity. And that is brought all the way back to our data center that we've been building out. That's another infrastructure project that we've been working on. So we've been doing a lot to make sure we can give you the best coverage possible of Artemis, but also of Starship too.
Perfect. Thank you so much for Kevin to jumping in and letting us know all about that. I figure this is a good time to say thank you to some of our members that are coming in. We've got Quentin, who's become a Red Team member. A big thank you for your support. We've got Sammy that's come in as a Pad Rat member. We really appreciate everything you do for your support. Thank you to Mac Bain Explains for becoming a Capcom member. And then we've got Sheldon, great name, who's become a Red Team member as well. We've got a few others coming in. I'll make sure we get through those as well. We appreciate all your support when it comes to our live feeds and all the information that we are going through with you for today. So we are on the countdown, which is kind of crazy to think that we are just about 48 hours away. In fact, we went past that 48-hour mark. It's gone so quickly today. Wasn't that crazy? Crazy. We have had a question come in about Starlink and connectivity in low Earth orbit. Are they going to be using Starlink up there? Let's see if I can find that question in the queue.
I don't believe they're using Starlink on this. For this one, they have TDRS for low Earth orbit, especially communications. That is the Tracking Data Relay Satellite System. So it's a bunch of satellites that they have in a high Earth orbit. So I believe it's in geo. It's a geo orbit, right?
It is. Yeah.
And
I was going to say,
that's used to communicate to these big ground antennas that they have located all across the globe. In fact, there's a website where you can track what TDRS is talking to as well. And so that is, I believe, their primary form of communication back to Earth.
Fun fact, I have a ground
don't
station
forget,
behind
this is
me.
a mission going into deep space, so they will be using the deep space network for communications as well once they go beyond the reach of TDRS, shall I say. So TDRS was, of course, set up for those low Earth orbit missions because our beloved space shuttle program got us stuck in low Earth orbit for 40 years, and of course communicates with the International Space Station and various other things, which, as Sawyer said, you can see online. But Orion is going into deep space, so the deep space network is going to be a very critical asset for this mission for Artemis II.
Awesome. Yeah, they didn't obviously. I've got Jay messaging me at the same time saying they won't use Starlink, but Starlink did get involved in the Artemis II in the form of a launch during today's press conference. Have we got the video from that?
Well,
were you guys able to get that?
Yeah, so actually this is a wonderful, this is why it's great to be in America, because we're literally during this presser like, sorry, your question got walked on because there's another launch going on right now. We all looked at each other like, I don't think there's earthquakes in Florida. It's definitely a launch. So anyway, we have to wait for the boom too, but I don't know if that's coming down. The boom will be quick though. Can you repeat your question online? I think we're clear now.
okay.
We think, I don't know, I can still hear that shaking in the background. Isn't that amazing? That in the middle of a press conference, they've just got a launch going on behind them, because where the media center is obviously relatively close to where the launch areas are over at Kennedy Space Center. Amazing. I love the fact that it managed to get a nice little cameo in there.
But you'd think you'd know that it was a drone ship landing. It's a Starlink mission. They don't do RTLSs, so there is no additional sonic boom to worry about. Come on, Amit.
It's difficult, I'm sure, to keep up with it all. If they're anything like us, trying to keep up with all the space news, what's happening, what's launching, you kind of need an app for that. Do we know of an app that would tell us when all the launches are coming in?
You just want me to do another plug, don't you?
Yes, I do.
Yep.
What if I said I don't want to plug Next Spaceflight, the app and the website that you can use to find out when launches are going to happen? And the cool thing if you have the app version as well is that for many of the launches, there is a way that you can actually see a 3D version of the trajectory. So for Artemis II, if you want to kind of follow what that trajectory is going to be, we also have that 3D basically trajectory map with data powered by Flight Club for that part. No, doesn't exist. Sorry. Not doing it. Not
you
doing the plug for that.
definitely cannot access it at nextspaceflight.com.
No.
Nope. Or in the app stores.
No. Out of curiosity, does it give you updates when it comes to delays? So if anybody is on the ground, are they able to get some updates in real time of what's happening?
It won't give you a notification when there is a delay, but if you regularly check the website and check the app, it will have the most up-to-date information. So as you can see, that is the current launch time for Artemis II. Should it delay for whatever reason, of course we hope it doesn't. I want it to go on the first because that would be spectacular. But you know, this is SLS and this is hydrogen. It's going to leak. Not much we can do about that, unfortunately, unless you rewrite the laws of physics. But if it does delay, keep an eye because it will show the accurate launch time for the time you are looking at the page. We have a team of people helping out to monitor all of the NOTAMs, all of the NOTMARs, all of the hazard areas, all of the updates, everything from every launch to orbit around the world, from every country, all of the latest information, nextspaceflight.com.
Love that.
There are a lot of options that you can get push notifications for, you know, including an hour before launch, 10 minutes before launch, a lot of things that you can do if you just press that bell thing in the top right corner there. Also, apparently there's another bell, I'm told, that's over that way. It's hard. There, somewhere over that way on the bottom of this video, that if you click it, gives you notifications for all of our streams and videos as well. So that way you can just watch live and know if it does or does not go.
Love that. All great ways of being able to keep up to date with what's happening, particularly if you're traveling out there to see the Artemis II launch this week. We understand trying to keep up with all the information is very difficult, and we'll do our best here on NSF to make sure that you are in the know. I just want to take a moment again to say thank you for all the support that's coming in on the chat. A big thank you to Shoma89 for being a PadRap member. It's always great to see you guys coming in with your support. Trogdor4, thank you for becoming a Red Team member. And we've got another one here coming in from Devin Waldron, who got 20 Red Team memberships. Sawyer, what does that mean when we see a Red Team membership come up like that?
It means that you get access to some of the amazing things that we have here on the YouTube channel. So not only do you get access to the cool emotes and stuff like that, but Red Team, we also have that member section there where you get to see some little teasers, some of the photos that get posted by your teams out at Starbase, in Florida, with all of those. If there's anything really cool happening, get a nice little 5-photo montage exclusively for members, which of course if you're in the Discord and L2 and all those other things, you get to see even more of them. But it's a nice little way to see what's going on.
Yes, thank you so much for all that support. Another one coming in for 5 Red Team memberships from Shoma as well. We do appreciate it. We've had a really good question that's come in on the chat that I'd love to be able to put to both of you. It's coming from Luke in the UK that says, hype here in the UK seems to be almost zero. What do you think could be done to increase the hype outside the US? Now, that's something I know I've been really aware of, is that people outside of space don't seem to really know that Artemis II is going on this week. What do you think they should be doing? I'm going to start with you, Sawyer, because you seem to be nodding along in agreement with that statement.
Tell people. Spread the word yourself. I mean, that's the thing. If people aren't going to, talk about it elsewhere, post it on all of your social medias. Share it to people. If you talk to someone, say, hey, did you know that we're going to the moon in a couple days? If you have any, local newspapers or stations, maybe send them an email and say, hey, are you doing anything about the moon mission so that more people can do it? But you and your word of mouth is the best thing that you can do right now. Share these streams with someone. Whatever you think is the best, share them some posts on social media of, hey, look at this cool moon rocket that's going to be going. Help the hype.
Help the hype. I like that. Ryan, you're obviously based in the UK. What are you seeing in the mainstream media over there? Do you think it's getting enough coverage this week?
Obviously, I think that every article from every news media outlet should be covering Artemis II right now, but that's not a realistic request from everybody. I will say, though, I have been pleasantly surprised by the amount of coverage that Artemis II has been getting, at least on this side of the Atlantic. On the BBC News channel, for example, they're regularly showing how you can follow along with the Artemis II mission, which I think is a pretty nice thing to see. Of course, there are some big news events happening right now, as we were talking to earlier, with the current ongoing military operation by the United States in the Middle East. So some things like that might be taking a little bit more precedent in the news cycle, whether we agree with that decision or not. But I honestly believe, I agree with Sawyer 100%. Like, we need your guys' help with this, because NSF is, we love what we do. We love the content we put out, and we put our heart and souls into it. But at the end of the day, we are space nerds talking to space nerds. We are not going to be able to penetrate to the 8 billion people on this planet, right? We need your guys' help to let us do that, because there's many more of you than there is of us. So anything you could do to help share the word that Artemis II is happening on Wednesday is fantastic. I think a big shout out to the Space Lunch System, Krispy Kreme, a personal favorite of NASA Administrator Jared Isaacman. They are putting out a special NASA meatball donut. I personally think that's going to go a long way. I'm not being funny here, like genuinely, I think that's going to go a very long way in raising awareness for this mission. And of course, I'm going to be honest here, we won't like it, but when this thing launches, the clips of this are going to be shared on social media. The clips of launch are going to be shared on the mainstream media. That is what is going to get the world's attention. Not everybody might be watching live come launch day, but the clips of launch, and as Artemis II approaches the moon, the pictures and live video, if the communication systems are within spec and allow that to be downlinked, when that is shared by NASA, that is when the world will start watching, because those are going to be incredible. This is the first time digital cameras operated by humans are sent to the moon. Like, this is the last time we went, digital cameras weren't a thing, right? At least for consumers. This is the first time that is going to happen. And I think that imagery is going to be, you know, spectacular. Like, there will not be words for that imagery. I have words for this imagery. The donuts that Krispy Kreme are promoting. I hope they're selling these worldwide, because I want to get a set of these. I can't keep them, obviously, because they'll go bad. I would keep them if I could, but I want a set of these just for the sake of saying I managed to get a set of them.
I sent that to my
boss. They did a version for Artemis 1.
Did
so
they?
This is their Artemis 2 version. Yes. They actually had them at the press site for Artemis 1, which was cool. So Krispy Kreme, please deliver them to us on launch day. That would be awesome.
I sent the photograph of those to my boss. We give out donuts at all of our STEM events that we run across the country. And I said, do you wonder if they'd send us Artemis donuts for every single STEM event we do from now on? She wrote back, yeah, that would be great, wouldn't it? Please, so I'm going to put it out there. Krispy Kreme, can we also have them for all the student STEM events that I do with all the former NASA astronauts? That'd be really, really cool. You know, double promotion for you. While I've still got a lot of group chats coming in, I want to say another thank you to all the supports coming in. We've got James McComb, who's come in with a PadRat membership. We really appreciate you. And we've got Kiwi5 that's come in, who's become a Red Team member. We keep encouraging you to do it, because I've had a lot of people coming in the chat asking about membership and how they can get hold of the amazing merchandise. If you're looking at Ryan's t-shirt on display right now and you're thinking, I want that shirt, how can I get it? We have a limited number of them. If you are a member, you can get the opportunity to get hold of it earlier. It is available to you, so go and check those out, and the memberships as well that are available to you. We also have 10 red memberships that have come in from Russell. A big thank you for gifting those to those that are on the chat right now. Nelson has come in as a PadRat member. We appreciate you as well. And then our last one that's come in from MA007K. I'm hoping you're some James Bond fan. Thank you for becoming a Capcom member. We always appreciate that extra support.
And we'll hopefully see you in the NSF Discord as well. That you get access to at Capcom and above. And like we were talking about with some of those extra member photos, there's some channels for that too.
Awesome. So there's lots of great opportunities available to you if you're looking into those memberships, not just because you get to get early access to the merch, but I would recommend it. There is pretty amazing merchandise available for you right now. So we are on that countdown. Look, we are at 47 hours even, and 20 minutes until we're seeing
I
launch.
hope we're not at 47 minutes.
Little panic moment.
Yeah, then I gotta run.
Little panic moment. I wanted to get from the both of you a bit of an idea of what you're most looking forward to from this mission. I ask you about it every single time, and I have to say I keep changing what I'm most excited about when I keep hearing more and more things that are going on with this mission. I know what your answer is going to be, Ryan, if it's the same one as it was before. So I'm going to start with Sawyer. What is the most exciting part of this mission for you?
Ooh, that's a good question. I mean, I'm excited for the launch because we finally have people heading out to the moon. I mean, it's going to be amazing getting high definition video back of the moon with people, getting their perspective, and of course talking with the astronauts afterwards is one of the things I'm absolutely most looking forward to. But just the launch itself, to finally see SLS fly with people after all this time, with the uncertain future, with the updates that we finally got from Jared Isaacman, with NASA administrator there, I think this is hopefully the start of a new era of the Artemis program and the beginning of getting more people to the moon. So this will be the first with the people, but not the last.
Absolutely. Ryan, am I guessing right that you would possibly be talking about the loo on this mission?
Well, I think that's a good milestone. You know, I think everybody agrees with me, right? That's a great milestone. I mean, we have the astronauts saying all of these profound things. You know, lighten the mood a bit. It's an important part of the mission. One thing that I do like, not necessarily about Artemis II, but about where NASA is right now, is the fact that so much change is happening, and there is this huge realignment. And Artemis II is part of that realignment. The astronauts said in the briefing, the new announcements from the ignition event of the moon base, of the reallocation of the new mission between Artemis II and the moon landing, that's getting them pumped up. That's getting them excited. The buzz around NASA right now is more buzzier, if that's a word, than it has been for years at this point, and it's so exciting. And if you think back to the previous Artemis mission, if you think back to Artemis 1 in November of 2022, you know, that was roughly a year after Inspiration 4 flew. And imagine being told, watching Artemis 1, the guy who did a private spaceflight mission on Crew Dragon 12 months ago is now NASA administrator by the time of Artemis II. I wouldn't have believed you. I don't think anyone would have believed you, because that would have been absolutely bonkers to think about. But what a world we live in. This is the timeline. I mean, it's incredible.
Absolutely. I'm going to say that my new favorite part might be the ISS communications between the Orion capsule and the ISS as they go around each other. I hadn't known about that until today. Or yesterday when they were talking about it in the crew conference. They were talking about connecting with their friends who are up in the ISS. I think that's a really cool opportunity. I'm really looking forward to seeing the video and hearing what they chat about while they're both on their missions. And I'm sure a lot of people around the world will be tuning in for that as well. As we are looking at that countdown clock right now, I feel like we should probably remind those that are watching what is going on right now, where we're at, and what's going to be happening. Ryan, do you want to talk us through what the countdown is at this moment?
Absolutely. Let's go through every single event which NASA has over the next 49 hours. I was kidding, but I mean, actually we can if you want to, because there's a lot of stuff coming up. Where are we now? We're just under, 47 hours, 47 and a half hours. So at this point in the countdown, NASA's going to be filling the water tank for the sound suppression system. And so, of course, they need water for the sound suppression system, which will be protecting Mobile Launcher 1 from the fury of those 4 RS-25s and 2 solid rocket boosters, which are very, very powerful. Remember, this is, you know, until Starship came along, SLS is the most powerful in terms of thrust vehicle ever built. Very, very powerful rocket. Following up after that, at L-45 hours and 30 minutes, Orion will be powered up. And then the core stage will be powered up at 42 hours and 20 minutes, followed by the ICPS, the upper stage, at 42 hours and 10 minutes. The final preparations for those 4 RS-25s will take place at L-39 hours and 45 minutes. And then actually the ICPS will be powered down as they get ready for launch a little whiles later, about 5 hours later. They'll then start charging some batteries on the Orion on the core stage, and then they'll boot the ICPS back up. And then we actually get to launch day itself, into the more spicy parts of the count. I'll skip through these a little bit because there are many, many events that happen on this launch day. So at L-15 hours and 30 minutes, all non-essential personnel will leave Launch Complex 39B to make sure that there's nobody at LC-39B that shouldn't be there, and clear out the pad ahead of launch. And then the ground launch sequencer, you may hear that referred to on the nets as the GLS, that will then be activated at L-13 hours and 15 minutes. Then, at 12 hours and 35 minutes to go, we will enter a 2-hour and 45-minute built-in hold. This is where things are going to get interesting, because if you are used to our SpaceX coverage, they just do a T-minus clock. And for SpaceX, that counts down till the time until launch. For NASA and for United Launch Alliance and some other people, that is not the case. There are going to be 2 different types of clocks running at the same time. Very confusing, I know. Don't worry, we will take you through it. There will be the L- clock, time until launch, L for launch, and the T- clock, time until terminal, I suppose. T is for terminal, for the terminal count. The T clock will pause. That doesn't mean the launch is paused. That just means the T clock is paused. The T clock can pause, or the L clock continues to run. I know it doesn't make a lot of sense. It takes a lot of time to understand. Okay, don't worry about it. We'll take you through it. On launch day, I believe we will be showing you the L- clock. So that'll be the time until launch. That's all you have to worry about. Don't worry about it. We'll be explaining it. Anyway, so we will now enter that 2-hour and 45-minute built-in hold, this on-purpose hold. So don't worry when you see the clock stop. Then at L-11 hours, this isn't a NASA event, but that is when our stakeout stream will go live. So that is when we will be doing live commentary for Artemis II. Of course, before that, you can watch all of these operations happening live on Space Coast Live 24/7, nsf.live/Space Coast. Then we will get to L-10 hours and 50 minutes. This is when the launch team will decide if they are to go or no-go for tanking. So that's a pretty important go, no-go at that point. And then over the next few hours, they will go through core stage tanking on both of the tanks, liquid oxygen, liquid hydrogen. They'll go through ICPS tanking, liquid oxygen, liquid hydrogen, and that will continue through all the way to, let's have a look through here, L- about 5.5 hours. By that point, all of the tanks bar the ICPS LOX tank will be in replenish mode, meaning they're constantly being topped up with propellant throughout until the time of launch by that point. I omitted the ICPS LOX tank because that will actually be replenishing at L-5 hours and 10 minutes, which is when we will enter another built-in 40-minute hold. And this is the time which gets really exciting because the crew will be getting ready to leave crew quarters at the Neil Armstrong Operations and Checkout Building at the Kennedy Space Center and actually make their way to the launch pad. So at L-5 hours, the NSF launch stream, our full-on coverage, will go live for launch. And in that stream, we will see Reed Wiseman, Victor Glover, Christina Cook, and Jeremy Hansen leave the ONC building, get in the definitely not the Starliner van with NASA branding stuck on it with stickers, and they will then roll out to LC-39B and then get ready to... luckily, they don't have to climb the tower. They've got an elevator to go up the tower on Mobile Launcher 1. They'll then go up the tower and board Orion over the next couple of hours or so. They will then, once everything's inside, closeout team is happy. The closeout crew, which is the people you will see in the white suits, they will then close the hatch to Orion. Very important distinction here. There are two hatches they need to close. There's the hatch on Orion and the hatch on the shroud that goes around Orion for the launch abort system. So there'll be one hatch, the internal hatch, which is the Orion hatch, which they will close at L-2 hours and 20 minutes. And then the launch abort system hatch on the external shroud, which you can see there, the pointy bit at the top, they will then close that hatch at L-1 hour and 40 minutes. Then there will be a launch director briefing at L-1 hour and 10 minutes. At L-50 minutes, the closeout crew will depart Launch Complex 39B and the final NASA test director briefing will be held. Then we get into the really exciting time. This is the 30-minute hold at T-10 minutes and holding. That starts at L-40 minutes. 30 minutes plus 10 minutes equals 40 minutes. So you can see the timelines are starting to match up here between L- and T-. Then we will have the launch director polling their team. That's Charlie Blackwell Thompson at L-17 minutes, whether they go or no go for launch. That will be an epic moment for the live stream if we get to hear that. The astronauts will then put their visors down at L-15 minutes, and then the ground launch sequencer will initiate terminal count at T-, we're into the T- here, 10 minutes and counting. A couple minutes later, the crew access arm will retract, and then essentially the vehicle will get itself ready. There'll be plenty of pressurization taking place, pyros being armed, things being switched to internal power. You can see it on your screen there. There's tens of these events. I won't read through them all. And then we'll get to the final couple minutes of the count. So everything will switch to internal power. The replenish, as I was talking about earlier, the constant top up of the fuel on both of the stages, that will cut off because, of course, the rocket is going to very swiftly disconnect from the ground systems. You don't want to be spewing propellant over the edge, so to speak, into the wonderful fiery flame trench subtle plug of the engines there. So that will all be cut off before the time of launch. Then, into the final minute of the countdown, at T-33 seconds, the ground launch sequencer will send its go for automated launch sequencer command. 3 seconds later, the core stage flight computer will initiate that automated sequence. T-12 seconds, the hydrogen burn-offs will be ignited. Those are the sparklers we see underneath the RS-25s. That burns off any excess hydrogen that has been built up around the base of the vehicle, because if they didn't burn off any of that excess hydrogen, they would, at the time of ignition of the RS-25s, that could lead to an overpressure event and potentially some fire. That wouldn't be very good. We've seen before with Super Heavy Booster 7, why you don't want to have excess propellant in gaseous form leaking around the base of your launch pad. It can lead to big booms. We don't want any big booms on Artemis II. Then, at T-10 seconds, the GLS will send the command for core stage engine start. So that's the ground launch sequencer telling the rocket to light the engines, which will light at T-6 seconds. The 4 RS-25s will light up. They'll run for a couple more seconds, and then at T0, the twin solid rocket boosters will ignite. And at that point, they're going to space. Or at least they're going up. But they're going somewhere, because once the SLBs are lit, there we go. You can't turn them off. So they're going to be burning for a couple minutes.
That was a great explainer, Ryan. I really appreciate how you just walked us through everything that's going to be happening over the next 48 hours. As we've mentioned several times, we will be having plenty of opportunities for more lives between now and launch day to keep you updated with all the latest news of what's going on ahead of the Artemis II launch. Before we close out, I just want to get both of you in your opinion. Do we think we're going to go for launch? Let's start with you, Sawyer. What do you think?
I hope so. I mean, at this point, the clock is counting. That is dramatic. That is huge. We are under 2 days away from potentially returning humans back to the moon for the first time in 53 years. So the original question was, will we even get into the count? The answer to that is yes, we are in the count. We'll see what happens on launch day.
Ryan, your thoughts?
I am very optimistic. I was going to talk about some hold procedures they could have. I don't know if Jay is still prepared to bring that up, but I believe they're going to get into the launch countdown. I think they're going to get close, and they have the ability, if they have to hold, for whatever reason, an unexpected hold, there's still a potential for a launch happening that day. They have plenty of wiggle room to move through. So if they hold before T-minus 6 minutes, they have unlimited hold time, so they can recycle. If they hold within between 6 minutes and 1 minute and 30 seconds until launch, they have 3 minutes of holding time. If they have to wait longer than 3 minutes, they have to recycle back to T-minus 10 minutes and holding. If they hold between T-minus 1 minute and 30 seconds and T-minus 33 seconds, they automatically recycle all the way back up to T-minus 10 minutes. And if they then enter a hold beyond 33 seconds, they will have to stand down for the day. But there's only, for that 49-hour count, there's only a 33-second window where if something happens, they cannot launch, right? So there is so much wiggle room for them in this countdown. This isn't like Falcon 9, when as soon as they start putting propellant on the rocket, if they can't go, they can't go. With SLS, they have time, they have margin to wiggle things around so we can actually get a launch off the ground. I'm confident. Whether we actually see a launch attempt or a launch happen or not is a completely different question. But for now, I'm confident.
I like that confidence, Ryan. I feel like it's looking good for everybody. It certainly looks good from the conferences that we heard earlier today from NASA. We are go for launch. We are looking at Artemis II going to launch as early as April the 1st at 6:24 p.m. local time in Florida. A big thank you to all of you who have joined us on the Countdown to Launch show today. I would love to say a big thank you to the team behind the cameras as well, Jay and Gage, who's on giving us those great live feeds coming from Kennedy Space Center. And we'll say a little goodbye. I will start with you, Sawyer. Would you like to say your handoff?
Sure. Thank you, everybody. It's always a pleasure and an honor to be on. We are less than 2 days away from this. It's hard to believe. I'll be joining you for tomorrow's Countdown to Launch from the Kennedy Space Center, where all of the team will be gathered and ready to go. And hopefully you will join us for that as well, for that next Countdown to Launch. And then, of course, oh yeah, launch day.
Just a small thing. Ryan, what about you?
Yeah, it's a pleasure as always to be on to share the excitement about Artemis II. We are getting ready for launch, and I will just say, make sure that you have those notifications turned on, because between now and launch, we have some very exciting things coming up that you will not want to miss. I cannot say any more. I'm not going to leak. I'm not going to be Chris B and start leaking things, but make sure you have notifications turned on. Let's go to the moon.
Yes, a big thank you for everybody that has joined us today. Big thank you to the launch director and flight engineer members as well. Remember, you can become a member and go and get yourself your early options to get your Artemis II patch available on the website to those members. Do check that out today before you go off and get on with the rest of your evening. A big thank you from me. I've been Alice Carruth, your host for this evening's Countdown to Launch. Do join the team over the next couple of days. I'm sure you'll be finding out a lot more what's going on the ground. And we will speak to you all very soon. Take care.
And here we go.
There's the deluge. Here's ignition.
Doubling up.
Did he just do a Kerbal?
Back to the moon and beyond.
Put that in the big bag, Gino.
Back at home, we all have a lot of work to do, but from here, that sure looks like a perfect world.
Propulsion continues to be nominal.
We did have an observation.
Equalizer.
343 unfolds to go.
It's orange.
Water towers can fly! Bingo! Right in the center. Where's Jacqueline? There it is! That was surreal.
That's not what we want to see.
No! Oh my God.
Yikes. You bet. We don't need any more of these.